Hi, folks. With Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio, audio, no pictures. Listen to this live stream in your car or truck as you're driving along. Now, in this essay, I'd like to talk about it's laughable in its way, but one of the Australian regional governments has appointed a minister to control the behaviour of men, straight men. The propaganda implication is straight white men must be controlled. The claim is, false, but the claim is that women are being murdered by their straight white male intimate partners, like husbands or boyfriends, whatever. And only government intervention and propaganda schemes and indoctrination schemes. Men must be controlled. Men, it's white men, straight white men, and they must be controlled. Because they're all fucking Hitler. Now, to justify this, they, as you can imagine, rely on some very fanciful, very cherry-picked type numbers. While this sort of propaganda blitz was going on, a number of men were murdered by their wives. But that didn't get a mention in the media. Can you find that anywhere in the media? I mean, you've really got to hunt for it. And even then, it's only in a local newspaper. And even then, you have to sort of work out, now, what went on here? So they claim in this particular region, I think over the last 12 months, one woman died from some sort of domestic incident, whether that be with the sister killed her, or the lesbian couple, or they were trans, because a trans man can identify as a woman, then they will say, well, a woman was murdered in a domestic incident by their trans partner. But it's all packaged up and delivered as it's only straight white males that are doing it. And as you go through the sort of the propaganda pictures and the imagery, you can go through hundreds of pictures before you find a single man who's not a white. So that 99.9% of the propaganda is that it's only straight white men. And as I mentioned, other depictions, the propaganda depictions they use, it's always, the implication is always it's middle class straight white men. It's not the people from the housing projects. It's those middle-class straight white men who, somehow in neighbourhoods where there's almost zero crime and zero bad behaviour, somehow only that crime is committed, but no other crimes are. Whereas they'll have you believe in the housing projects, every crime is committed except domestic. And of course, it's quite absurd. So really, we're looking at something that's just absolute propaganda. There's no reality in this at all. Now, let's have a look at these 12 deaths. Now, 8 or 9, I think it was, of the 12 were non-white couples, primarily, Islamic, but also, African and that sort of thing. So really, it's a very, very non-white gig straight away. But the media won't talk about that, and neither will the government. So hugely disingenuous. Because they looked at dealing with this, they would concentrate very heavily on non-white men. Now, if we look at the three supposed white incidents, one of these was a lesbian or trans, I'm not sure, lesbian or trans anyway, and there was a death there. And the other two were from the housing project, where again, crime of all sorts is just off the charts. So there's not a single straight white middle class male here. In the housing projects, we're looking at intergenerational, very high crime. And one of I couldn't find the other, but one of the guys was from the housing project. Well, he was a white guy, but covered in tattoos, and he's a career criminal. So that's hardly an indication of men that criminals need to be controlled, but instead of looking at any of that, they're saying no, all straight white men need to be controlled. special government programs. We got to get into the schools. We got to get into those schools of the middle class suburbs, and we got to tell where there'll be a very high proportion of soy boys anyway. Because if you've ever been brought up in a middle to a slightly upper middle class environment, as I have, the women, many of the women, certainly in my friends that I had, I go to the place, many of the women are in very domineering type positions. When I say very domineering, I don't mean dominatrix domineering, but the idea that they're being pushed around and oppressed by a husband is laughable in any sort of reality that I'm aware of. So really, there's not a single straight white male in sight. Now, and some other things they're doing is where the woman murders the man, they'll include that in the total numbers, but they won't mention that it's a woman or a lesbian or trans. They'll still try and infer in the propaganda that it's all straight white males, and they'll come back to think it's only men that need to be controlled. So this regional government in Australia is saying, well, men must change their behaviour. Well, what men are we talking about here? It's not straight white males. Are you talking about the migrants and the Islamic people? No, it's straight white male. So the whole thing is a propaganda, and it's all part of this wider globalist thing that the people who oppose globalization or question it, or who are its biggest upfront losers, are straight white males. Whether it's through diversity, equity, inclusion, or affirmative action, or simply reduced living standards, then it's straight white males, or the loss of sovereignty of the nation, the fact that elections are rigged or court cases are rigged and juries are stacked, and this is all very, very serious. And straight white males are the ones who are most invested in having a successful and stable society and community. Therefore, they're the enemies of globalization, and this is just another way of getting at them, saying that they're all wife bashers and murderers and so on. And it gives the government just more power. So, well, no, we're not going after straight white men. We're trying to protect women and children from Hitler. And this is the catch cry they can deliver. But can you believe it? The government's actually a special department on controlling the behavior of men. I mean, holy fuck. I mean, can you imagine a more dystopian society? You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.